Hey guys, what is going on? Jurgen from ZurGrinoSports here, coming at you with the January 22nd edition of Smackdown review. Just before we get into the review, real quick, self-plug time. If you would like to support me in the channel, you can do so over on Patreon. It will be the first link in the description of this video and every video. So if you're able to and you'd like to do that, that'd be great. If not, that's a-okay. Also Twitter and stuff, and at the end of the video, let me know what, like and subscribe, and let me know what you guys thought of Smackdown down below. I thought it was another good week. There were a couple things that I really didn't like. There were a couple things that I was kind of 50-50 on, and then most of the rest of the stuff I enjoyed. So without further ado, let's get into it. We started off the show with a Roman Reigns promo, as has become kind of commonplace. It's not a big thing right now, but I don't like when wrestling gets too formulaic. If you're having the same person start the show and main event every week, it kind of takes away from it, in my opinion. But granted, what they ended up doing throughout the night, it kind of made sense that you had them to start off the show, because then you develop it a little bit more about halfway through, and then they're in the whatever. But I hope they kind of switch up when and where in the card they use Roman coming up, soon, because he starts off every show and he main events every show. And I love his character. He's the best thing in wrestling right now for me, but it's just, when you become that formulaic, it kind of gets repetitive, and things being repetitive kind of makes it boring. You know what I mean? To a degree. So hopefully they don't keep doing that, but it's just a minor concern right now. And it's not really a big deal. It's just something that personally I don't really like too much. But Roman Reigns promo, he started off by saying how people keep saying that Pierce and Kevin Owens outsmarted him, but that method of thinking is below him, it's beneath him. The whole card subject to change mentality is how a loser thinks. Reigns doesn't think like that. Reigns makes his appearances. Risking his health in a pandemic was the only way he missed appearances. So he doesn't think that way. But he starts to say, you know what? How about let's see what would happen if I did think like Adam Pearce. My shoulder hurts, Paul. My shoulder hurts. My arms hurt. My legs hurt. My knees hurt. My ankles, they've been bad since college. Oh, my back hurts from carrying the company. And you know what, Paul? My back hurts so bad. What if it still hurts next Sunday? A week from Sunday. Oh, that's the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. That would be bad if I couldn't compete. So he's pretty much, mocking the whole card subject to change thing that Pierce did beforehand. Pierce comes out, he says, come on, let's cut it out. It's gone too far now. It's getting out of control. Roman's like, no, see, you, going against me is out of control. You putting Kevin Owens back in the title picture is out of control. You favoring him is out of control. You know what? You don't even favor him. You're just his bitch. And if you're his bitch, you're definitely my bitch. So the promo continues with Roman saying how Pierce constantly complains. He's always complaining. But how Roman doesn't. For years, he's done everything that the company has asked. He's made every show, whether he was hurt or not. He's gotten there. He's competed. He hasn't complained. And that's what makes him who he is. And no wonder Pierce never made it to the WWE, as insinuating as an in-ring performer, of course, because he is there now, but not as a performer. Paul Heyman, laughs at that. And then Pierce is like, hey, you laughing at that, Paul? You find that funny? I'll take the intimidation from him, but certainly not from you. And then Roman's like, hey, he's disrespecting you. And if he's disrespecting you, he's disrespecting me, take care of it. And Paul Heyman gets on the mic. He's like, hey, listen, you might think you're talking to some guy. Maybe you bought into the persona that I, put across on television. But, I'm not this soft guy. I grew up around the Anoa'i family. I'm from New York. I'll beat your ass. And then he challenges Pierce to a match later on tonight, claiming that a verbal contract is binding in the state of Florida. And Adam Pearce, accepts the challenge, shakes his hand, and that's how we start off the show. But before the segment ends, after everybody's off the mic, Roman gets up right close in Pearce's face, and he says, by the end of the night, regardless of what happens, you're going to get your ass kicked. And immediately there, I knew where they were going with it. But, it's not bad if something's predictable and it's predictably good. You know what I mean? If something makes sense and the thing that makes sense is predictable, don't, abandon logic for the sake of unpredictability. You know what I mean? Because that's what WWE does a lot, and it really hinders the product. So, yeah. We went to commercial, I think, from that or something, or they were announcing some of the stuff coming later on tonight, and they're like, whoa, what is this? And Sami Zayn comes down with his documentary crew, and he handcuffs himself to the barricade. And Sami Zayn is fucking fantastic. Maybe he's the second best thing in wrestling after Roman Reigns right now, because Sami Zayn is fucking incredible, dude. He's great. He was complaining about how last week, he had the match won. Yeah, he accidentally pulled the tights and the ref saw it, but then Apollo pulled his tights and they didn't see it. And then Asuka's music hits because we had a Charlotte and Asuka versus the Riot Squad match, non-title. So I don't really... The way that this match was set up doesn't technically really make that much sense. Right? Because if you're setting up Charlotte and Asuka versus Riot Squad based on tag team matches, then Riot Squad should probably be having a tag team match for Charlotte and Asuka's titles, especially because they're not on Raw. They just came to SmackDown to have a non-title match. Like, what's the point? The title isn't inter-brand for you to go brand to brand just to have random matches. It's so you can defend it on any brand. So if Charlotte and Asuka are coming over to defend the title, why is the title not on the line? That doesn't really make sense at all to me. Riot Squad getting the match definitely makes sense because they've had a good tag team record lately. But if it's non-title, like, what's the point? You know what I mean? And plus, Liv got a loss last week, which she shouldn't have. For some reason, Tamina and Natalya are in the mix because they showed them backstage looking at the monitor to see what was going on. They're not an actual tag team. Like, they were literally just, hey, we're going to do Billy's, resume gimmick, and we're going to use Natalya, and we're going to use Tamina. And then they're not a tag team. So why are they sitting backstage like they're interested in the tag team titles? You're not a tag team. So just the match happening didn't really make sense to me. Especially given the fact that Jey Uso and Shinsuke Nakamura did not feature on this week's show. So you could have had a segment with them instead of this pointless match, because, spoiler alert, Riot Squad loses. So the match didn't help anyone if it's non-title. You know what I mean? Like, if it's a title match and then you have Riot Squad get really, really close and then just fail or something, like, whatever, because you can put somebody over with a loss. But this didn't do that. They had some Billy Kay stuff that they were doing. By the way, Sammy was showing his, he had like picket signs, like riot signs or protest signs with him. And he was like holding them in Asuka and Charlotte's face when they were entering. So I thought that was kind of funny. Also, Riot Squad didn't get an entrance. They just appeared in the ring, and Charlotte and Asuka got an entrance. So that was kind of weird. There was a little bit of Billy stuff where she got kind of involved at ringside, and then Charlotte went to grab Billy Kay, and then Liv Morgan got some offense off of it. But then there was a spot where, like, Asuka was gonna roll up Ruby, and then Billy Kay went up on the apron to distract the ref, and then Ruby reversed the roll up into her own roll up on Asuka, and then Billy's like, oh shit, I'm gonna get down, but the ref was still distracted until she got down. And that happened, and then eventually Ruby took the pin, and I think Charlotte pinned her because they did the whole, combo finisher that Asuka and Charlotte have. Once again, like, Charlotte just got a win on Raw. You don't need to give Charlotte a win again. Like, what was the point of all, like, the match didn't need to happen. It didn't help anybody involved. And like, having the Billie Kay stuff interfere with Riot Squad's match 1 week, yeah, fine, whatever. That's fine, right? But like, having like doing the exact same thing again, kind of like, it's just, this was the thing that I disliked the most on the show this week, because it really was poor. For me, I didn't like it at all. Charlotte and Asuka didn't need to come over to SmackDown for a non-title match. You gave a needless loss to Ruby and Liv. For some reason, you're packaging Tamina and Natalya as a tag team when one of them shouldn't even be on the roster because she's not very good, and that's Tamina. And then Natalya has less charisma than a fucking box of crayons. So it's like, I don't get why this happened, especially because Jay and Shinsuke weren't on the show. They weren't on the show at all throughout the night. Why not have them on the show in some capacity instead of this match? Like, the match quality itself was whatever. It's just, I really had a problem with that part of the show. It just didn't really make sense to me. They had a backstage thing with Riot Squad, where Billie apologizes, says she didn't mean to, and then Ruby's like, what? You didn't mean to what? Distract the ref when I was pinning Asuka, cost us the match, blah, blah, blah. And then Billie's like, yes, which I popped for because that was funny because she has good comedic timing. So, like, Billie Kay's great. Billie Kay also had a really weird, outfit on that was really funny. So that was pretty cool. Billie says that she spoke to Sonya. She got them in the Rumble. And then she was talking about things that they could do as, like, we could do this, we could do this. Ruby's like, I don't think you get it. There's no, like, us. There's no we. Like, it was much better when the squad was just, me and Liv, and then they kind of walk off. So they're, they're continuing the whole Billie has nowhere to go thing. I just really disliked the match. Why was it not a title match to begin with? There's no reason to have Raw people on SmackDown when the only reason they can be on SmackDown is to defend their titles, essentially. To not defend it just didn't make sense. It was a needless loss for it fucking sucked, man. That was the worst part of the show. But then things improved from then on. I don't think there was anything else really I disliked too much after that. Like, the opening promo was strong. I guess I didn't really give my thoughts on the promo itself at the beginning. The prospect of Pierce versus Heyman sounds kind of weird as a main event, but just based on the Roman thing that he said off mic, you already knew where it was going, and where it was going made sense. It's fine. It makes a lot of sense. If something seems weird, but there's a logical conclusion to it and a logical reasoning for it, I am on board for it. So I was like, okay, I think I know where they're going. It was where they ended up going with it, so it was completely fine for me. Anyways, we had a Daniel Bryan promo. Sammy is still there on the entrance. Bryan kind of chuckles at him during his entrance because he's just still there because Sammy is great. He had a promo kind of putting over the Rumble. You take on 39 men, an hour long, this and that. You go to WrestleMania, this and that. He mentions how being in the Rumble makes him feel alive, or the prospect of winning in the Rumble makes him feel alive. He's proud of his career and his accomplishments, but he's never won the Rumble. Cesaro interrupts him, says he thought he beat some sense into him last week. He said, thanks for explaining the rules of the Rumble, although I could have done it better and in 5 languages. C'est vrai, oui, to Sammy, and Sammy's like agrees with him, and then Cesaro's like, yeah, nobody wants to hear you, which kind of popped me, because Cesaro, like, despite not being English not being his native language, he has a natural charisma that they've never let him tap into. So I'm hoping they do some of that, because if you see him on like up down and stuff like that, he has a natural charisma that can be good in wrestling. So hopefully they let him tap into that a little bit more in the future. It looks like they're finally maybe doing something with Cesaro. I hope the fuck they do. He should have been a world champion years ago, but he wasn't because he's not 7 foot tall and on steroids. So, but anyway, so Cesaro, interrupts him, does the whole 5 languages thing, says that Bryan's not going to win the Rumble. He's going to win the Rumble. And he won the first ever Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, so he is, he has experience in these kinds of things. Brian's like, you mentioned, last week. I haven't forgot about last week, and instead of us just arguing like this, let's, I'll take off my suit, we'll wrestle, blah, blah, blah. And Cesaro's like, I'm tired of proving myself over and over and over by doing the same things kind of thing. He's already beaten Bryan, and Bryan isn't dressed to compete, so instead he's going to issue an open challenge. Dolph Ziggler answers the open challenge, which Bobby Roode, was not on the show. I don't know if that's maybe a COVID thing or if that's it probably is a COVID thing because he lives in the same city as me, or neighboring at least, and in our province in Canada and Ontario, it's kind of like a lockdown situation. So yeah, that's probably why they aren't letting them go. So anyways, Dolph obviously needs something to do, and Cesaro and Dolph can put on a great match. It's Cesaro and Dolph. I'm all for that as a match on SmackDown for sure. Free television, that match, absolutely, give me that. Dolph comes out, he says something about how, in the whole locker room, nobody can go toe-to-toe with him except for his fellow dirty dog, Bobby Roode, and Cesaro. Not you, though, Daniel Bryan. It's not 2014 anymore. Dolph says he wants to win the Rumble, and because he wants to go to Mania and get paid. And then he accepts Cesaro's challenge. He also said brother a bunch. Probably a couple brothers away from growing a mustache, handlebar mustache, becoming racist, doing steroids, and being Hulk Hogan. He accepts Cesaro's challenge. We go to commercial, I think, and then we come back. The match had already started, I think, during the commercial, because they cut to commentary when they came back from commercial, showing Bryan was on commentary, and then they go to the ring. The camera cuts to the ring, and Michael Cole's like, oh, match is already underway. So either they started the match as they panned in on Bryan on commentary, or they started the match during the commercial. But there was a really, really long Cesaro swing moment in the match. It was a very, very long swing, so that was impressive. Sammy, once again, was still at ringside for the match. Then Cesaro beat Dolph with the neutralizer. He stared down Bryan a bit at commentary afterwards, saying, the Rumble's mine, and then, he continued celebrating. Another emphatic win for Cesaro. 2 wins in a row. Commentary made sure to put over that he's beaten former world champions 2 weeks in a row, which I think is a very good thing that commentary can do, because right now Dolph's a tag team champion. That's supposed to elevate him already anyways, but saying that somebody is a former world champion really elevates them in the eyes of somebody who maybe is a casual viewer or a new viewer, you know what I mean? Because Dolph right now, they haven't done too much with him in recent years, but if you have him in a match against Cesaro and somebody's just tuning in for the first time, or they just started watching a few weeks ago, and you're like, hey, he just beat a former world champion, you're like, oh shit, so this guy's good because this guy used to be the best guy and he beat him now. It just gives that level of credibility, not only to the person losing, but also to the person winning, you know what I mean? So I like when commentary does that, former world champion, stuff like that, because it puts over, it puts over both the winner and the loser, really. More so the winner, but it also adds credibility to everybody. The match itself was good for the time that they were allotted. It was a TV match. It wasn't that long. They didn't get too long for the match, but For the time that they got, it was good. They're both very good wrestlers. So yeah, of course they would do well with their time. I like them doing more of Bryan and Cesaro. If Bryan and Cesaro could have like a fast lane, or not fast lane, I don't think they're doing fast lane this year, but Elimination Chamber. If they could have a singles match at Elimination Chamber, that would be fantastic. I think Bryan might win the Rumble. So Bryan won't have to do anything, big at Elimination Chamber. So it would open him up for a singles match with Cesaro. I think they'll do Shinsuke and Roman at Elimination Chamber as well. And then you can do Cesaro and Shinsuke at Mania, which would be fantastic if you give them time. But yeah. Yeah, I'm really happy that they're kind of continuing the Bryan and Cesaro stuff. I hope they actually go through with it, because they were teasing a bunch of Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn stuff in October and November, December, in those months, here and there, putting little hints here and there. And they never really capitalized on it. So I don't know if maybe that's something they're going to do in the future still, or if it isn't. So we'll see. They definitely have time to do it. So that would be a really good program as well. Maybe after Roman, crushes Bryan's dreams at Mania. But yeah, next up we had Sasha Banks versus Reginald, the sommelier of Carmella. Sasha's making her entrance. She just busts out laughing at Sammy, who is still at ringside, by the way. Not like ringside, like the entranceway of ringside. So he's right there when everybody's making their entrance. So he's on camera, and he has like a chair out. He has a bunch of different like protest signs. Sammy was probably the best part of Smackdown tonight. I really enjoyed his part of Smackdown. Carmella kind of scoffs at Sammy, because Sammy's being like really pushy and persistent about his like sign or something to her, and she's like, Jesus, leave me alone, dude. I don't know you. Carmella was supposed to be on commentary, but she ended up just drinking champagne next to commentary. Before the match starts, Reginald offered a rose to Sasha, took off his jacket, came back, leaned forward, and like pointed to his cheek for a kiss. Sasha goes for a slap. He catches the slap. He's like, nah, nah, nah. She has a free hand, though, slaps him upside the head with her other hand. This Reginald dude, like, I knew he was athletic because of some of the stuff they've done in the Carmella and Sasha Banks matches. The one in Extreme Rules, not Extreme Rules, fuck's sake, TLC, and then, the other ones, little not mixed tags, but tag team matches here and there, stuff like that. So the dude's athletic, but, like, I didn't know that he was a Cirque du Soleil guy, former Cirque du Soleil guy, but he is, because I checked his Twitter, and that's what it said, because he was doing some very, very impressive, like, flips and shit around the ring. You know what I mean? There's a point in the match where Sasha, knocks the champagne out of Carmella's hand. Carmella gets really upset, stands up to like kind of get in her face. And then when Sasha turns around to go in the ring, Carmella's like, okay, well, there's another glass here. I'm just going to pour myself another glass kind of thing and sit back down. Sasha submits your boy Reginald. And then looks strong, I guess. So it's a nice win for Sasha. The last time she was on TV in a wrestling capacity, she, I believe, took that pin to Carmella, or did she submit to Carmella in the tag match with Bayley and Carmella, and then Sasha and Bianca. So the last time she wrestled the match, she took a loss. I think that was the January 1st. Right? I think that was the January 1st SmackDown. Or it might have been the January 8th SmackDown. It's one of them. But yeah, Sasha gets a win. This one was kind of weird in the sense that, like, the dude's not a wrestler, but at the same time, he's a valet. He keeps getting involved in the matches. He keeps getting in between Sasha and Carmella. Sasha's a resilient person. The Sasha Banks character is very resilient, very like, I'm going to fight whoever to get what I want. At least the current incarnation of her character. So it makes sense that she would have challenged Reginald it makes sense that she would beat Reginald because Reginald isn't a wrestler. He's a sommelier. He's just a dude who, what is a sommelier? Is a sommelier just a fancy word for servant, or is there like more to a sommelier than just being like a servant? But that's pretty much what he is. Like, he is just like the right-hand man of Carmella. So, yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I really, really like Carmella's theme song. I'm really glad the FABULOUS Iggy Azalea knockoff is gone. But her new theme is good. There was no special entrance for Carmella this week. I'm hoping that's because it was Reginald's focus. I'm hoping at Rumble, when they have the match, I'm hoping that Carmella's entrance is back with the whole like sheet with the reflection on it, you know what I mean, the silhouette, and then drop the sheet and then whatever. Because that's a really unique entrance, and it brings eyes towards her and kind of makes her unique and stand out, which is what you want. So hopefully they didn't get rid of that for good. Hopefully it's coming back at the Rumble. We'll have to wait and see. The match itself was okay. The finish looked kind of not botched, but like you could tell the guy's not very, very far along in his wrestling training. Like he's good enough. He's decent enough to have a match where he's taking a bunch of offense. But like, Sasha went for like a tilt-a-whirl thing, and then like she went for another revolution around, and she was kind of like losing momentum. So I don't know if maybe Sasha didn't give herself enough momentum going into it, or if maybe he wasn't supporting her properly. It might have been one of them. It might have been both of them. You know what I mean? But it didn't look too smooth. But then again, like, stuff looking very, very smooth isn't always the best thing, you know what I mean? Because like, if something looks kind of choppy, like you're fighting to get it, it looks like more of a fight. It looks more real, you know what I mean? Like if you're doing something that's really athletic and you just do it like seamlessly, it's like, oh yeah, no, that looks visually cool, but like, that doesn't happen in real life. That gives away that it's a choreographed thing. It's a performance. But like if you struggle to get a move on, it's like, oh, the person's fighting back. They don't want to receive the move. They're not just going to sit there and take the move. At least that's from my perspective. Granted, I don't think everybody should fight against everything, because that would not make wrestling enjoyable. But like sometimes when a botch like that happens, it wasn't necessarily a botch, but like something like that, when that happens, I kind of try and take the positive look at it and not be like, oh, they ruined that moment. It's like, hey, that kind of legitimized it in one way, you know what I mean? So yeah, Sasha gets a win against Reginald. Made a lot of sense to me. I thought the match did well for what it was supposed to do, so it was fine. Then we had Roman and Paul backstage. Roman sitting in his comfy old chair. Paul Heyman behind him. He's like, you know what? That was brilliant what you did earlier. And then Roman's like, because Paul thought it was a ruse. And then Roman's like, listen, I didn't want you to challenge him to a match. When I gave you the mic, I wanted you to handle it like you handle things normally, verbally. You got yourself into this mess. You gotta be a man and handle your business, Paul. And then he kind of gets up and leaves. And then we have the Big E versus Apollo Intercontinental title match, which was good enough. There was Big E holding his title down by his waist and then kind of like humping the air in front of Sammy, who was still there at the entranceway. I think his sign at the time said "Not my Intercontinental Champion." So he was like holding it in Big E's face and yelling, and Big E was just like, "Yeah, I don't give a fuck." It was great. I liked it a lot. Apollo didn't get an entrance, so much for him being elevated by being associated with Roman Reigns. Guess they dropped that because he didn't even get a fucking entrance. There was, Apollo did the thing that he's been doing the past couple of weeks where he starts the match really intensely right off the bat. But guess what? Big E overhead belly to belly to start off the match. He was ready for it. There was a triple German suplex bebe attempt by Apollo at some point in the match, but Big E stopped the third one from going through, so that sucked. And then partway through the match, Apollo goes to the top rope, and Sami Zayn. The camera pans to him. He has a key. He's unlocking himself. He gets in the ring. Apollo's in the corner. Haluva kick to Apollo, causing the disqualification. Haluva kick to Big E, and then he's yelling at all of them during the match. So that's a disqualification win for Apollo, I guess, in the record books. And then he goes to not only the WWE camera, but his documentary camera, kind of going back and forth, saying like he didn't ask for this, they brought it upon themselves, kind of thing. So yeah, Sami was great. Sami had so many signs, man. He had a sign during the match that said, "How do you sleep at night?" that he like showed towards the ring while Big E and Apollo were wrestling. He had "Not my Intercontinental Champion." He had Sami broken down into an acronym that stood for standing against moral. What was it? Moral injustice. Standing against moral injustice, Sami. He had one that said Sami was screwed, or Sami's the real Intercontinental Champion. Change my mind, like that meme of the dude at the table with the change my mind sign. There was another one. Sami's fucking fantastic, brother. Just give him every title in the WWE and just let him have every 2 hours every week to just do whatever he wants, brother. He's incredible. But yeah, so there you go. Big E's still champion, obviously, because it doesn't change hands on disqualification, the title. I mean, people typically kind of get pissy about title matches not having clean finishes, but I mean, it made sense. Sami Zayn had a number one contenders match, even though they didn't call it that last week, which I was kind of annoyed by, which, you know, implications, fuck off, it's a number one contendership. There was the number one contendership last week, Apollo and Sami. And then, like Sami said earlier in the night, he rolled up the tights, but so did Apollo. One got caught, one didn't. Of course, he's not going to be okay with that title match happening. Plus, he already has his, conspiracy gimmick going on that everybody's against him. He's not going to let the Intercontinental Championship division just move on without him. He's incensed at the injustice, the moral injustice that he's standing against, that's happening against him. So within his character, it makes sense that he would not want the title match to go on as planned. You know what I mean? He's not going to have somebody else win the championship when he should be the one having the shot. He's going to ruin their chance, right? So I think this might lead to maybe a triple threat at the Rumble for the title, which would be a really good match. And it's a good way of protecting Apollo as well, because Apollo lost the Intercontinental. He lost two of them technically. Or no, he drew one and then lost. He lost the Intercontinental title match against Big E a couple weeks ago, which I think he got put over during that match. But I mean, he had a loss, right? And it kind of protects Apollo for if you want to actually do something big with him down the line, because if he loses two title matches in a row fair and square, he doesn't really have much claim to a title match unless he wins an opportunity again, which they very well could do. But even then, you kind of go into the match with the narrative of like, okay, I mean, he's going to lose. So it protects against another loss to Apollo. It keeps the title on Big E. And then it advances Sami's character and Sami's message and Sami's gimmick. So I had no problem with this at all. I thought it did what it was meant to do. The match itself, within the time that they had before it got interrupted, was good. You know what I mean? Big E's good. Apollo's good. Like they're good wrestlers. Who would have thought good wrestlers can have good matches? So within the time that they were allotted, it was good. It protects Apollo from a clean Intercontinental title loss, because you don't want to take the title off of Big E. Keeps the title on Big E without the detriment of having Apollo losing, and then you advance Sami's shit. So I was completely fine with that. I liked it. I thought it was fine. I haven't seen people mad at it, but typically what I see online is, oh, this title match had a disqualification or a count out or an interference. Fuck you, WWE. Like, this isn't mixed martial arts, brother. This isn't the UFC. This isn't people in a cage. It's one-on-one, and it's, rules like this is professional wrestling. People get involved. When there's a title at stake and a character thinks that they were wrongly, screwed out of it, of course they're not just going to let it go by. They're going to, screw other people. Because they're like, oh, I got screwed, I'm going to screw you. Especially if it's a heel. It just makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really get the outrage that I usually see about title matches not always being down the middle clean. Like, okay, it's wrestling. There's no reason for them to be. This isn't real. It's not a UFC fight. I mean, it's not fake. You know what I mean? But because fucking people who call it fake, I get hot at that. Because people have been paralyzed in there. People, it's not good. But anyways, I had no problems with that segment whatsoever. Sammy was really good. Then on commentary, they were talking about how Roman had reportedly left the arena, which once again put into my head, okay, yeah, they're absolutely doing what I thought they would do in the main event. And then they mentioned that Kevin Owens was not there either, to which we cut to a car promo that Kevin Owens shot of himself saying when he showed up to work today, they didn't let him in because Roman pulled some strings and they wouldn't let him in. He talked about how Roman has yet to beat him like the champion he claims to be, because the two victories he earned against Kevin Owens, he didn't earn them. His family won them for him. He talked about his tattoos and he specifically mentioned the tattoos on his knuckles, which were the initials of his grandfathers, which were his biggest fans, and kind of gave him the strength to do everything, and how like they fought, I guess, for his dream kind of thing, and how they also had illnesses that they fought against, illnesses that should have, taken them away before they did, but they lived with them way longer than they should have, so they fought back. And he talked about how one of his biggest regrets was not making it to the WWE before they passed away. And he talked about how, because they fought, like he's obviously just going to keep fighting. That's why he keeps fighting kind of thing. Which was really good. It was a really good promo. Once again, it's foreshadowing what's going to happen in the main event. It's just doubling down. Okay, this is what we're doing on the main event. Don't worry. We're not actually going to do Paul Heyman in a match in the main event. You know what I mean? Which is completely fine. Pulling on real life shit, because he's mentioned that on podcasts and interviews before. Pulling on real life shit to put over the story, brilliant. I love it. If it's done tastefully, which obviously this was done very tastefully. It's not like, other stuff that they've done before. But really good promo. It put over that Kevin Owens, he hasn't been beaten yet. He has 2 losses, but he hasn't been beaten yet by Roman. You know what I mean? So it puts that over. So it puts over in the people's minds like, oh yeah, you know what? He hasn't been beat. He has been outnumbered. You know what I mean? That's why he hasn't won. So because like he has 2 losses in title matches, it would be easy to go into the title match and be like, oh, he's already lost twice. He's not going to win. But because of the way they did the losses and because of them reminding you, hey, I didn't actually lose fair and square, it puts it back in your mind. Okay. So if it is fair and square, because Kevin Owens almost won both of those matches before the interference, okay, Kevin could actually win this match. So it puts that over. I don't think he will, but it puts over the possibility. And then obviously it puts over his motivations and good promo. Kevin Owens is a great promo, so there's no surprise there. There was a Street Profits backstage segment where they, go to Sonya. They have a celebratory fruit basket for her new position where she goes to accept. But, before she does, Montez talks about how, it's been 2 weeks, 14 days since the Street Profits lost their tag team champions to, Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. Dawkins mentions the ED shirts, entertainment dysfunction, to which Montez turns to him and in a subdued, angry way, like in the sitcoms, he's like, that's an official, she has a suit, calm down, with the ED shit. And he's like we were saying, we want the rematch. Sonya's like, oh, you want your rematch for your tag team titles? you guys, listen, in 2010, you guys won Slammy Awards. You guys had a long reigning championship. You were dominant champions. So you will get your rematch. But Montez, you're still recovering from your leg. So for now, you guys just keep doing your funny segments backstage promoting SmackDown. Some new teams will get some opportunities. And then when you guys are completely recovered, then you'll get your rematch kind of thing. And then they kind of like took a second to like think about like to kind of like process what she said, and they were like, okay, yeah, no, we get it. And then they gave her the fruit basket and kind of fucked off. I thought it was fine. I don't really. I guess Sonya's supposed to be a heel, technically. Or I don't know if she is, but like her telling them like go keep doing your funny segments is kind of like, I don't know. I don't think management should be doing that in like a demeaning way to them, because the way she delivered it was demeaning. But I'm thinking maybe this might be a way of repackaging the Profits, not completely, but just making like giving us a serious Profits team. You know what I mean? I think maybe that's what they might be trying to do, or they were just trying to get, drop a tidbit of like, oh, Sonya's still a heel, watch out for her kind of thing, something like that. I don't really know. But it's fine. I like that she acknowledged that they deserve the rematch, but he's not recovering, and we do need to get some new teams in there. So, you know what I mean? I like that part of it. So that was fine. It was a bit of a weaker side of the promo. I laughed at Montez getting like quietly upset at Dawkins for the ED shirt reference. I like that. I thought that was funny, but yeah, it was fine. Then we had the Bianca and Bayley obstacle course. Michael Cole introduces them. Bayley comes out second. She takes the mic. She's like, "Okay, Michael Cole, this is my shit. Get out of here." Michael Cole goes back to commentary. So basically, the obstacle course is they have to lift a 400-pound tire once. Then they go to ringside where they have these hurdles that they have to go over. Then they have 3 walls to climb over. Then, with the help of the Alpha Academy and Chad Gable, they do a fireman's carry thing, and then they have to score on a basketball hoop, and then that's the thing. Now, the way that it starts out, the hurdles are small, and then the walls are the way they are. They're in increasing sizes, a small one, a medium one, a large one, and then the fireman's carry, and then, the basketball. Bayley goes first. Bianca was about to go first. She was getting ready. She got her warm-up gear off, and then she was about to get ready, and Bayley pushed Bianca out of the way, and she was like, "Nope, I'm going to go first." So she goes down there. She kind of struggles a bit with the tire. Then she goes down to the hurdles. She does the hurdles really easily. Then she kind of like contemplates the walls a bit, takes a few seconds, and then she kind of runs through the walls, like slaloms through them instead of jumping over them. Then she gets over to Chad Gable, puts him up in a fireman's carry, goes the distance that they need to. She kind of stumbled on her way down, high-fived Gable. Then she got the basketball, went for a layup, bricked it, and then went for another layup. I don't know if she intentionally bricked it, or if that was actually just her like, okay, actually bricking it. I'd like to think it was intentional, but I've bricked layups like that when trying to score because I'm shit at basketball, so I wouldn't put it past her. But she got a time of 1 minute and 12 seconds. So Bianca then has her turn, and she's like, "Wait, Bianca, before you start, we have special adjustments to this for you because this was made for you." So they take out the small hurdles, and then they have actual hurdles that you'd see at the Olympics, like the actual big ones that are like at waist height. And then they get rid of the small hurdles that are like ankle height. Anyways, she starts off, Bianca. She lifts the tire with ease, runs down, clears the hurdles with ease, clears the walls with ease. She gets to Gable, and she's like, "Okay, let's go." And Gable's like, "Good job so far. Now here's your next test." Otis stands up after hiding behind the steel steps, and then Bianca fireman's carries Otis with ease across the distance that they need to, then gets the basketball, and then she's like, Bayley, come here, breaks Bayley's ankles, and then dunks to win with 17 seconds to spare on Bayley's time, which would make that, 55 seconds, right? So, Bianca, got a really good showcase. They did some good, just like mini heel stuff with Bayley, like not actually doing the obstacle course properly, and making it harder for Bianca. And then after Bianca won, Bayley attacks Bianca to get some heat after the match, which finishes with her throwing Bianca into the basketball nets, post thing, shoulder first, and then Bianca was selling the shoulder kind of as Bayley walked up the ramp to end the segment. I like this a lot. The thing with obstacle courses is if you don't do them the right way, they fucking bomb. And they did them the right way. They had the heel not take it too seriously. They had the face do it with absolute ease. And then they had the heel beat up the face to get heat after losing the obstacle course. It worked really, really well. You know what I mean? Like, Bayley gets over as, who she's trying to be, the whole Karen gimmick. Bianca gets put over and has her strongest assets put over, which is how incredibly talented she is athletically and physically. And then you give a win of sorts to the face, and then you promote them, kind of thing. You put them over, and then also the heel gets heat by attacking the person. I thought this was great. I was worried about what they would do with it going in, because they could have done it the wrong way and messed it up. There are many wrong ways to do it, but they did it in a way that really worked. Everybody benefited from it. So I loved everything about that. That was really good for me. And then we move on to Ray and Dominic backstage. Ray's like, watch out for his right hand, this and that. Dom's like, hey, listen, hey, yo, I got this, Famarino, brother, man, dad, dog, bro. I got this. And then Ray's like, no, I know, I just want to make sure you're good. He's like, don't worry, I'm good. It's just, let me do this. And then Ray's like, okay, we'll do it your way this time, Dom, but if anything goes wrong, next time we're doing it my way. Dom's like, okay, yeah, no, I got it. Then we had Corbin versus Dominic. Corbin had really, really cool attire. He had it split. One leg was gold, one leg was black, and then the logos were the, opposite color on each side. Really, really clean attire. But once again, last week he didn't have them. I don't think the week before in the Gauntlet he had them, and then this week he didn't have them. Did they drop Cutler and Blake as the Knights of the Lone Wolf? Did they drop them completely and keep Riker on TV? Is that what they're doing? Is that what Vince McMahon is doing? I wouldn't put it past them. But yeah, I'm confused as to why they weren't there. Maybe so there was like no interference kind of thing. I don't know. I hope they didn't drop them fully, because they're hardworking dudes. You know what I mean? They worked hard to get a segment. They worked hard to get a spot on the roster and a push, and then because the third member of their group was a racist piece of shit, they lost it all. It's not fair. But anyways, the match itself was fine. Dominic is pretty impressive, you know what I mean, for how short into his career he is. One small thing about Dominic I will say, and I'm going to sound like Vince McMahon, I think it would benefit him to put on a little bit of muscle, because given his height, he's really lean, and being that lean and that tall doesn't always look that good. So I think, either if he could do a way to get extra lean where you just see the muscle, or if he could bulk up a bit so he gains some muscle just to get his aesthetics a bit better. But that's just a minor thing, and that's not a necessary thing. I just think it's something that might help him in the WWE environment to maybe get more opportunities down the line. But Yeah, the match itself was fine. Dominic does well. Corbin is a good, safe pair of hands to have in there with a young up-and-coming guy. Corbin gets a lot of shit, but Corbin's really good. Like, people can like boo him and say he has go away heat. He's just a good heel. He's working you. Like, that's all it is. You're getting worked. Corbin's great. He's really good in the ring, and he's great as a heel, so it's just really good. But basically, the match itself was fine. It was good enough for the time that they were allotted. The finish was Corbin goes for the end of days. Dominic reverses, kicks out the knee. He's set up for the 619. He goes for the 619. He gets caught, pulled through the ropes, pulled up, lands on his feet. Big right hand. End of days. 1, 2, 3. Corbin gets a win, which is good. Giving Corbin wins is definitely good to elevate his stock. Dominic doesn't need to win in this match because he's still early on in his career, and they're evidently, going towards a, learning from your father, kind of being too self-confident angle with him, I think, before they eventually win the tag team titles, which I think is something that they should do before Ray retires. I liked everything about that as well. They did what they needed to with Dominic. It was good for Corbin. I think it was good. Then we go to the main event, Pierce versus Heyman. Heyman is wrapping up his wrist during his entrance. He gets to the ring steps. He trips. He gets back up. He tries to do it again. He trips. Then he yells into the ring to Pierce. You know what they say, verbal contract, cards subject to change. Roman Reigns music hits. He walks down the ring, gets in. Superman punch. Pierce goes out of the ring. Roman follows him out, about to pick up the steps. Pierce gets him with a big right hand on the chin, to which Roman just pisses him off. Roman throws him into the crowd kind of area, goes around, and then they kind of brawl. They don't brawl. Roman beats his ass all the way over to the part of the arena where they threw Kevin Owens off a few weeks ago. And then a hooded man who is Kevin Owens comes through the back and starts attacking Roman. They brawl a bit. They go in the ring. And they had a moment where Roman, when they get back to the ring, goes for a Superman punch, gets kicked and stunned in the ring, goes out, kicked and stunned outside. At this point, backstage personnel have come out. He yells at Paul, who's cowering. He's like, "Oh, you looking, Paul? Huh? Nothing to say?" He gets Roman, pop-up powerbomb through the announce table, and then he walks away. He looks to pick up the steps to go back. The backstage personnel does not allow him. He goes over to Reigns again, crouching over him and saying, "You're lucky that the backstage personnel, have your back, because at Royal Rumble they won't." And then we go off the air. I like that as well. The only thing that I'm kind of confused about is why they didn't do this on the go home. You know what I mean? I'm interested to see what they do end up doing on the go home, because the whole standing tall segment is perfect for the go home to a last man standing match. You know what I mean? So yeah, maybe they might do like a tag team Pierce and Kevin Owens versus Roman and Jay thing. Maybe that's what they'll end up doing, which wouldn't be that great. It would be kind of a lackluster go home segment for me. But granted, they've been doing really well with these segments with the Roman stuff every week, so I'm not like, pessimistic about it. I'm not like going like, oh, what are they going to do now? They're going to ruin it. They've been hitting it out of the park for me every week. So, I really, really don't mind, waiting and seeing what they do with the Roman stuff. But it does kind of confuse me why they did this on this episode and not the go home. Once again, the standing tall spot, would have been perfect for the go home, in my opinion. In terms of the segment overall, I'm sorry if you believe that they were actually going to do Pierce versus Heyman, but you got worked. It was obvious from the get-go that they were going to do a swerve, especially when Roman said, no matter what happens, you're getting your ass beat tonight, to Adam Pearce in the ring. That was the dead giveaway. When they announced the match, when they shook hands, I was like, okay, they're going to do something with Roman or maybe Jay or something. And then he said that. I'm like, they're absolutely going to do something. And then they do the backstage segment. And then it's like, okay, they're absolutely going to do something. And then, oh, Roman and Kevin Owens aren't here. They fucking bet your mortgage on them doing a fucking card subject to change because it's happening 2,000%. Like, you know what I mean? And that's not a bad thing. If it makes sense and it's predictable, but it makes sense, just do the predictable thing because it makes sense. Do not, like I said earlier in this review, do not cast away and discard logic for unpredictability. Fuck that. If it's unpredictable and it makes sense, fucking hell yeah. Go for it. But like, if it's unpredictable just to be unpredictable and it makes no sense, like, why? Yeah, I thought it was fine. You get to see Roman beat up on Pierce, which is good for Roman because, it puts him over as being like this mean son of a bitch. Then Kevin Owens comes through. Him being able to sneak through the crowd through backstage after being not allowed in shows resilience in him, just him getting through the crowd. And then obviously you put him over physically by having him beat the fuck out of Roman, whooping his ass and standing tall. So, it gives Kevin Owens credibility going into the pay-per-view, and it works well on everybody's end. You know what I mean? So I like that a lot. Just speaking on Jay really quick, I don't think Charles Robinson was on SmackDown this week either. I can't remember entirely if he was, but I don't think I saw Charles Robinson this week. So maybe they didn't have Jay there to kind of like come back next week and be like, hey, what I say, Charles, last week you weren't on the show, you know what I mean? Or something, I don't know. With Shinsuke, I really don't know why he's not there. Maybe it's a COVID issue, or maybe they were just like, yeah, you see, we were going to push you. But then Kevin Dunn remembered you don't speak English perfectly and he's a piece of shit, so we're not going to push you. Please fire Kevin Dunn. I'm not saying he did say that. It's just, he like that report a few years ago came out that he didn't want to push Becky Lynch because of her accent. Like, Kevin Dunn, I feel like just has incriminating evidence on Vince McMahon, and just that's why he's kept on. There's no other way. The dude's just incompetent beyond belief. But yeah, I thought that was a good episode of SmackDown, maybe like an 8 out of 10. It wasn't, mind-blowing 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 stuff. There was that really, really poor segment for me, which was the Charlotte and Asuka versus Riot Squad stuff. I really, really didn't like that. The Street Profits backstage promo was the other thing that was kind of like, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't that good for me. It was just kind of like middle of the pack. It wasn't really a great way to get Sonya on TV, because another thing with Sonya, she's still a wrestler. They're just doing the backstage thing for now, is my assumption. So, like, you need to showcase her more. She can't make the best of her, backstage role when you're giving her, like, a minute on the show. You know what I mean? But I don't know. So that was kind of like meh. And then the Charlotte and Asuka stuff was just really shit. I didn't like it. The rest of the show I thought was great. So probably an 8 out of 10 SmackDown for me. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments below. If you would like to check out some of the other stuff I do on the channel, I do gameplay stuff primarily. So you can check out a couple links at the end cards at the end of the video. Please go ahead and check out my Twitter, link in the description. If you'd like to support me in the channel, you can do so over at Patreon. First link in the description. So if you can do that and you would like to, that's great. If not, that's a-okay. Be sure to sponsor me, Peace Tea. Gotta remember to beg for that Peace Tea sponsorship. Be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss an episode, because YouTube likes to zuck you boy and not put my videos in your sub boxes. So by pressing that nice old bell icon, you will get a push notification anytime I do upload, and you'll never have to miss it. And yeah, man, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, share it to all your friends, comment down below, all that good shit. And I'll see you guys next time.